The intent, there's going to be a lot of activity that occurs in downtown over the next several months. And we wanted to inform people of street closures, etc. Secondly, we have the issue of what to do with the trees downtown. We have our urban forester here, Pat Walding, who's going to talk a little bit about that and to develop a plan to present to the JCDA for consideration. And thirdly, we wanted to talk about trash containers. We have people who are leaving their trash cans out, always have, but as we generate more pedestrian energy, we need to orient our service structure in such a way that it doesn't, so that the pedestrians and the garbage can coexist. So I'm going to start with just a sort of a slide presentation of some things that are happening downtown, and I'll start with the big picture. This is to orient you. This is State of Franklin Road. We're standing right here in front of the plaza. This is where the parking garage is. This is Buffalo Street. We have a series of improvements being planned, as you can see. The city has been out purchasing property, and now we're starting the conversions of different projects. Just to orient you, Founders Park, these are the parking lots across the street. This is Tupelo Honey, State of Franklin Road Trail, etc. So let me talk about a few of the projects. Founders Park is well underway, should be completed in September. The concept here is to open up the creek, which it has been, and develop a creek with seating walls on the side. There will be a series of cascades so that they'll have a waterfall effect. Amphitheater will be located on this side. Then we'll have pathways around the area, and then a big lawn to host events and that sort of thing. This is the site you can see from Kelly Foods. This is going towards ETSU. You see where the creek opens up underneath Sevier, and so all that has been taken up and construction is proceeding. The way the construction sequence is they'll keep the creek on one side. That's where you see the tarps. We do that for water quality, and then we'll construct one side, completely construct that, all the walls, etc. Then we'll move the creek over and start the construction on the other side. We have Lamont Street will be completely redone, have parking, curbing, etc., and sidewalks. So they're putting in the drainage structures to control drainage as it feeds into the Founders Park. This gives you an orientation, and you can see that it's going to highlight some buildings that maybe we haven't seen highlighted before from just a view angles on the various streets. So the private folks need to take special note of these new view angles that are going to occur in the community, and maybe look at renovations, etc. Next to it is Farmers Market. You've heard talk about that. The City Commission is in, we've just signed a design contract for it. This is the first rendering of what it could look like under one particular architect's viewpoint, but it'll be an open shed. We're going to try and figure out how to put bathroom facilities on the site. It'll house about 60 stalls or so, and we plan to have some additional parking on the outside, that sort of thing. So that's the concept, and one of the things the designer has to do is he has to mesh the textures that are being constructed now along Buffalo Street so that it flows all the way through and into the park. The park itself will have the Versalock type of walls, not just concrete. Only the sidewalks in the park will be concrete. The rest of it will be this Versalock type of material. And so you can see that it's kind of from where we stand, This will be the location of the park. We don't know, obviously, we've torn out Wilson Avenue. That was done for different reasons. But nevertheless, we don't know for sure how large that farmer's market needs to be, whether it needs to drag into the Wilson Avenue area. We don't know if Wilson Avenue will remain open or we close it. There's good and bad points on both sides of the equation, but we have to wait for the designers to give us a feel for what size of a structure is we can fit on that side, and then make some decisions how to proceed forward. We expect the design to have a couple alternatives within about 2 or 3 weeks. We'll pick an alternative, and then the design will be completed in about 6 to 8 weeks, and then we'll be in a position, if funding is there, to bid the project. If funding is not there, we obviously will have to wait. But we're going to be using some TIF dollars is the idea behind that, about $1 million, I think, Shannon. And so we'll just have to see if that's enough to carry us through the project.
Where exactly is the farmer's market?
Starts right here.
So it's gonna be on Main to
Takes out this
Wilson?
parking lot.
Oh, okay. Takes
Yeah.
out the parking lot.
Takes out the parking lot, and here's Main Street. We'll take out the parking lot that stretches to about here, and then the old free service large tire shop was there, so we'll stretch through. The farmer's market is used 2 or 3 times a week. Whether or not it goes to every day is a decision of demands. But if it's not being used, obviously it's available for public parking. The concept is to design it in such a way to have craft fairs, et cetera, to expand on having events in the downtown area. As well, those events can actually feed into Founders Park. It's designed to have events. The concept being that if we can get more and more people down here for a variety of events, and if you look at great cities, they'll all have these types of events on a repetitive basis. I was looking at, just the other day, looking at the top 10 most desirable cities to live in, and they all had the same characteristics. They had events, they had open spaces, and that was pretty cool, and I think that's the direction we should go. Then there would be some additional parking on the outside. That'll always be available for the public. You've seen construction start on the renovations to Buffalo. And this is our construction crews. We're trying to do all this in-house. So it's kind of a first-time deal for us. But we have a lot of work to do. We're doing it up at Science Hill. We'll be doing it all over downtown. And these are permeable pavers. This is, it'll stay dry always. There's about 18 inches of rock, stores water, has a way to feed outlets. So all the parking spaces on Buffalo will have permeable pavers. So this kind of gives you an idea of construction in progress. And that's sort of what we have so far. And I think it looks pretty good. I hope you're pleased. That sort of gives you an idea. This will stretch all the way down Buffalo, all the way to Rome. And this gives you a kind of a close-up of what a permeable paver will. Fill it in with some small rock, maybe a 1/4 inch, and then top it off with some sand to solidify it in place. We yet to have a lot of work to do. Next week, we will be starting, in fact, we're starting today, but next week, in earnest, we'll be ripping out the center, and we'll be constructing an island. And next week, we'll be putting in some drain pipes. You know, we have a water problem at the corner of Market and real high water. We're looking at building underground storage so that we can eliminate that during the high water. So we're sort of designing that now. We talked a lot about it yesterday as part of the project. So we'll eliminate that problem, and then these will be permeable pavers. We have to work with the college because they have downspouts, et cetera, to deal with. This sort of gives you an idea of what it is. This is Market Street. The picture where it was, the sidewalk had been taken up is in the parking garage sits here. So these will be permeable pavers, and then we'll expand the island that exists now so that we minimize the crossing time for the pedestrian. There will be a grass median in the middle where it's striped off now. Same way over here, there'll be a grass median all the way to the state of Franklin. And then where we allow traffic to cross to get into Tipton, those will be paving stones. So we will construct, starting next week, we will be constructing this, so we're gonna have to close the road. So it will be a little disruptive to folks. Once we finish that, simultaneously we'll be constructing the sidewalk, et cetera, putting in planters to try to decorate it up along the sidewalk. And then we will follow that with the construction of the island, putting in the pavers, and also the center island. Once we finish that, which will be in about 4 weeks, we'll be moving into the intersections. What the intersection design is having pavers, again, paving brick in the intersections, and then we have a kind of a very durable concrete, it's a colored concrete that will be used for the walking paths. There'll be concrete troughs with, we'll pour it with a special concrete mix. Highly durable, so it has some different colors to it. Then the paving stone that we put in the center island, which will actually extend up to Tipton Street. So all that construction will take place. If you remember when we ripped out the pavement along Main Street, we had the old brick. We just can't use the old brick. We do know that from Tipton Street on up to at least Rome is the old trolley tracks are still in place. So if there is a desire to want to extend that, we would look actually at a design that would have the trolley tracks in it. But that's for a much later date. This gives you an idea. Again, Buffalo Street will be closed for about 2 weeks, starting Monday. Once we finish that, we'll be over here, and then you'll see this area of Buffalo closed. And then once it's finished in about 4 weeks, we'll be closing each one of these for at least a week to 2 weeks at a time.
Will
So,
Buffalo between Main and Market have the grass median as well?
no, we have to have capacity for turn movements. But there will be a lot shorter distance. What we're hoping is to try to integrate the parking into the downtown and make it feel a little more comfortable than it is now. Right now, it's sort of a break point. Same thing applies for State of Franklin over on Cherry Street. A lot of people have a perception, you know, it's a 4-lane, fairly high-speed road. We're trying to figure out how to break that. At a minimum, we plan to put in flashing lights between the parking lot on Cherry Street in the downtown area at a minimum. And then we're trying to figure out how to put center islands in, but keep 2 lanes of traffic in each direction. So that's what we're working on right now. We will do that project at the time it gets repaid after July 1st. We have the money to do it right now.
I have a question. Is there any chance that they would talk about doing a pedestrian walkway over the road?
They're pretty expensive. That's probably for a much later date to try to figure out whether or not to do it. Those things are about $1 million to build at a minimum. Then you eat up property, so we can get the medians in, you have signalized crossings that do provide for some safe harbor for pedestrians moving back and forth. We haven't got it in our mindset to utilize that parking lot. We're way too convenient in Johnson City. If you go to Nashville, you would park further away from any place, from this location, you would park further away than any public parking that you have in Johnson City and feel that you're walking next door. But you come to Johnson City and the perception is you gotta be right at the door, and that's not the way downtowns are designed. Downtowns are designed, you know, high intense use, village atmosphere, and then put the parking on the periphery. We haven't got to that. But in part, because you've had a 4-lane road encircling the downtown, which gives you a perception issue. So, we're gonna try and break that some.
Bill,
Yes?
when Buffalo's closed, will Main and Market, the intersections be closed as well?
No, this section will not close. We have to figure out a way. But when we work the intersection, yes, we will close down that.
But we're talking
particular-
days or a week or something, we're not, see, I can't
Two-
get, I don't know how I get trucks.
1 to 2
in.
weeks, and then we'll have to figure out a routing plan to move people around the intersection. That's why we could only do one at a time. But right now, it'll be closed from here back, but the traffic will still go this way. Then when you close, we just have to figure out how we're gonna route traffic. The railroad will be coming through, you know, those are temporary crossings. They gotta put the big line in. And so they start Monday is what I've been told. So they may actually close, but we're not closing Buffalo at the same time they close to redo the rail line. Then once they replace it with a heavier duty rail, they will then come back in about 3 weeks when it's warm weather and bring in the paving machines and make a nice smooth crossing. Okay? We're standing up here, and this plaza has been discussed, but our plans are, if you can see these lines, our plans are to actually bring the curb line out, way out, so that we reduce that travel time for the pedestrian in the street. When we do it, I can't, typically we would pour concrete, but I can't match up, so I end up having to tear everything up. I can't pour new concrete and have old concrete behind it, okay? So, when I do that, now we have an opportunity, if I'm gonna rip it out anyway, we have an opportunity to change it. Some things that we've noticed, that we're really looking for some public input. The statute sits behind bushes that are up to her ankles or kneecaps. Then you have a fence and you can't get near the old lady. And then you can't get close to it to really see the design of the art. And so what we're looking at is maybe a possibility of changing all that and try to introduce a different theme. Maybe put paving stones out here and feed it in to the Lady of the Fountain. And then pour some concrete, expand green space, etc. So any comments that you might have on design are most welcome, but we need to get moving because we're close to construction in that area.
The whole thing is just a big walk around right now. It would be really nice to see somewhere you could open up the middle a little bit with either seating or walkways to have it more, A, make it more accessible to get through it, and B, maybe use that space for, lounging, and it's a nice location.
Well, one of the things we talked about, you've got this space in which there may be a waiting list, so where do they sit?
Right.
You have the Blue Moon Theater in which people may want to sit around for a little while outside before they go. You have Grant Summers doing the building across the street. What happens if he puts in a nice restaurant? Where would they wait? So the whole idea is exactly what you're saying.
Great.
It would be great if you had a group of people downtown, tell us a little bit about what you'd like to see so that we can get it drawn up. We gotta get it approved by JCBA, and I don't have but maybe 2-week window. But we were thinking very much along the lines that you're thinking.
Our Wi-Fi reaches out there, and our folks would love to go work, take their laptop and sit around the way to the mountain and work, or, you know.
Did we get Tracy committed to?
Oh, we'll get Tracy tonight.
Okay. So,
What, do you want an email address given to people that they can put those comments into over the next couple of weeks?
yeah, Shannon,
Shannon?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then forward it
I'll
on to-
have my cards on.
but just remember, we're wide open, we're looking at pavers. We were thinking the other day, pavers out here, walk in next to the pedestal, putting pavers around the pedestal, so you're right there, some benches around, feed in, the rest of it's green. So instead of having all this garbage, because it's all really cut up and stuff, you could take and move the lawn area out, have more green space in here,
Yes.
and
What
that sort of
about
thing.
edible landscaping? Is that being discussed at all?
Obviously.
You two
It's a
married?
big trend in other cities. I'm
Good.
curious how Johnson City would embrace that.
Edible landscape.
Yes.
You know, that's done a lot around restaurants, I know in Savannah, and I think there was a place in Phoenix I went to, a couple places where they actually
Yeah.
did that very thing. It's pretty cool. I don't know, if it's on your own property, if we get into that, then we get into use of public property and that sort of thing. So that one might be a little bit hard for us. The next one is, this is the lot on Boone Street, okay? We tore the buildings down. This is the, let me get oriented here.
You're looking toward you,
I see JC Transit.
This is the press building. This is looking down towards Boone Street. And then you have the transit and really nice looking building. The idea here is we're gonna convert that to a lake. So this is Market Street right here, runs on this side. King Street over here. The idea that's been floated is to build a pond. It's called a retention facility rather than detention basin. And then maybe in the winter, you could freeze it and have ice skating and that sort of thing in Johnson City for a period. So that's
It's
what
on
we're.
video now, Phil.
Yeah.
I love the idea. I've worked here 35 years, I ought to have one opinion. So that's what we're working on, a design for that. And then we would have a permanent pool of water. I think it'd look good, it'd really break up the landscape and give you some other colors like blue and that sort of thing. So that's kind of what we're working on. This is another view angle. Boone Street, when you look at all these things, Boone Street really becomes the peripheral road. That's sort of a circular road around downtown. It'll be emphasized more and more as the years pass, but this will be a nice view angle. We've got to fix a little problem here with the angle of Boone, and that's from King. This is U-Haul. Obviously, I back up. We plan to do Boone either this fall or next spring. So this construction will take place, I'm not sure exactly when I said, I might have said June, July, but it depends on how long it takes to do these other projects. I think it was a June, July for this project, okay? The next one is U-Haul. We're now negotiating price, and that conversation's ongoing. Once we complete that negotiation, then we'll remove the structure and build something that looks very similar to what you already have along McClure Street. Sort of just a basin, about 4 foot lit, and that way it just collects the water and gives us a way of getting water out of the downtown. The next one is the old Johnson City Furniture Company. We will be accepting bids on that in the next month. In fact, we're working on the bid books to remove the furniture company. The old culvert runs underneath. Across the street is this eyesore that the city owns. This used to be the old arcade. And there is a box culvert. The reason we fenced it in is people were parking on it and started breaking on it. So what we're looking at is either opening it up, if it were to run next to the building. And you see it in Europe a lot where they put a little ledge next to it so that you could look down. It would receive backwater from the U-Haul sump pump. If not, I'll put a large 48, 60-inch pipe in and then build parking lot over it. So that'll give some parking on this side of the downtown area. But we do want to certainly do that project. That won't occur until, I think I had that one in the fall. So at least we clean things up and hopefully we can start addressing some of these walls through the Public Art Committee, if you're not familiar with them, and look at outdoor murals, that sort of thing. I think that'd be a cool addition for them. Tupelo Honey, everybody's heard about. Our participation will be to take the state of Franklin's walkway and run it down to Buffalo Street. Okay, and I'm assuming you know where this building is. It's on the corner of Buffalo and the state of Franklin's on the other side of the state. The next one is public art. We're raising money now. I think we have enough. The idea is to have public art stretch from downtown all the way to ETSU. We'll overlay that concept and a lot of discussion about having pollinator plants, butterflies, etc. That would line through this area as well. So we'd have both the natural type of the natural environment meshing with the artistic environment to try to create something that's really cool. We're actually, ETSU is completely on board. What we're trying to do is mesh their programs with what we're doing so that we have a nice relationship with ETSU. So this could become either a pollinator park there or with a little bit of artwork. It could be an art park. We plan to introduce artwork into what we refer to as Founders Park. I think yesterday we got all the names in, and we're going to be selecting the name, what we were calling Founders Park, but there will be a name selection here that within the next month.
Is Founders Park a possibility?
No,
Why not?
well, okay, you're right. I don't think park is the possibility.
Oh,
The word park.
So anyway, it's got a lot of mode to it. So anyway, that's sort of the idea. If you also look, you've seen some discussion about Kelly Foods. There is discussion ongoing to see if we can't convert this whole area where Church Brothers and Kelly Foods and do some sort of redevelopment of that and then create a nice large wetland area and restore the original wetlands. A lot of the things we were doing is actually, if you go back to the early 1900 master plan for Johnson City, we're actually bringing it back to that. There's a lot of that is green space in that master plan. It's really cool. Anyway, those are projects that I've talked about that we're actually gonna do. Some of them that we're looking at in the budget process. We want to redo the sidewalks, Main and Market. That's being considered for funding. Rome Street, redo the entire streetscape of Rome Street is being considered. Main Street, redo Main Street. That one's a little more intricate because we have all the planners. And so that's being considered for funding. The City Commission, we've operated under deficit budget deficit budgets for 4 years. And you're gonna do that during a recession, so we have a nice fund balance to work with. That can't be done endlessly. And so there has to be, if there's not a new revenue source interjected, then it's gonna make it very difficult to prioritize these for funding. They're just really, it's gonna be a difficult budget cycle if we get away from deficit budgets. This shows you where the front of the library, hands-on wants to locate theirs, so the city owns a lot of that property, willing to give it to them. We see some of the developments that are ongoing. So you can see that the environment's changing downtown, creating a fresh new image. And so some of the smaller things that we're looking at in this budget would be to have hanging plants on all the streetlights. We want to change the tree landscape. We'll talk about that shortly. That's why it's imperative that we deal with this whole garbage issue and having containers out on sidewalks endlessly. A lot of neat stuff occurring. Do you have any questions about anything that's occurring?
Bill, one of the questions I would have, I've been kind of through this experience in 2 other cities. This is really beautiful and really nice, but I stay concerned about ongoing maintenance and maintaining it in a way that it remains beautiful and nice. Any thoughts about that?
Included in the budget proposal, we're actually, I've got mine tomorrow, but we want to increase the landscape budget. We want to add 2 landscapers, landscape technicians to help maintain. We have proposed adding another street sweeper and an operator to the budget. The difficulty again is how we're going to fund all this, and it really is a revenue issue. But the citizen survey came out and showed a lot of the things that are desired by the public. So we've gone back, and where it impacts public works, we've made proposals or have in the budget proposal to consider these if funding is available. But we're very cognizant of this issue of long-term maintenance.
Phil, given the increasing festivals being held downtown, I presume that all of these improvements will be coordinated with those schedules to minimize impact on them?
You know, one of the nice things, Lee, about having the Washington County Economic Development Council is that it can become a kind of a central location for economic development activities. If downtown has like 1 million to 1.5 million square feet of building space. It's as big as the mall area. It's as big as the crossings area. It's got as much square footage. If you think about it in those terms, that has a tremendous economic potential, but you got to get people down. So part of what I think that they should have an umbrella approach over is how to create these festivals that make those top 10 great cities most desirable living cities in the country. Whether they do it themselves or whether they utilize something like the, what are some of these groups down here? Downtown associations, there's Friends of Old Downtown, utilizing that group to coordinate. But we really got to have that coordinating mechanism. It's not going to come out of City Hall. That would be a little bit much. We really don't have that kind of department. But the use of the land certainly is going to be available for whatever that council decides is in the best interest of revitalizing downtown. But that is critical. And you gotta get people. If you get people down here, then the private investors will look at it and go, well, there's people here that buy products. So you gotta have a sort of a continuous thing. Okay?
So
If
you'll
there,
be kind of under control for Blue Plum in the first weekend of June? I
Who?
mean, for Blue Plum, will some of this construction, will Buffalo be open and,
we'll be finished by Blue Plum
okay.
Yeah,
if we have to work till midnight, Pat.
you might be seeing me on working, I don't know.
I may be laying that block.
I got this. I got the papers.
We know
I
to
can do
get
it.
out of the way. We know that for sure.
Can
Okay?
do you have rough timelines for the big projects that you just talked about? Particularly Founder's Park?
Founder's Park is September. Should be completed. This will be in the fall at the latest. This will be next year. It's gonna be at least 2014 before we can get in there and do the demolition. Even if we settled today, they would need time to be able to move someplace. So don't look for that one anytime.
Farmers Market is part of Founder's Park, is that September as well?
No.
Farmers Market, you're probably looking by the end of the year. Buffalo will be May. We won't be moving up into these areas because we'd have to wait till the next budget cycle, which is July, and then, so this could be by the end of the year if we chose to do that, and that's pretty high priority is Road Street. The paving will occur after July, and that'll have the pedestrian. I gotta just deal with the pedestrian issue, but that's a big deal to us. The Tupelo Honey Trail will be in March. The public art, they're doing, trying to get the curator, is the curator and judge. And then that will proceed, the money's there, we have to raise, it's almost there, we have to raise about 30,000, so if anybody's interested in sponsoring a piece of art, that'd be great. This will be held off until we understand the cost of controlling the drainage in the tree streets, get it over here rather than it coming down Buffalo into Tipton. I gotta hold on, somewhat have to hold on that just to understand cost. Did I cover everything? Okay?
Thank you.
The repaving of the part of Main is part of that, by May, that you're talking about Buffalo. Where the pavers go on Main Street. next to
Buffalo?
Yeah, that's part of the Buffalo that be done by May,
Yeah,
that, the bricks on Main Street.
yes.
Okay.
What about the plaza right down here? What's the timeline on that?
That'll be part of the project.
Okay. So just
Just give me an idea, you're gonna have to rely on my design and management.
What are you gonna do about the drunks and homeless that hangs around these places? You know, when you have the tables out here, concrete tables, those huge, heavy, they rocked them, busted them. I had 6, 7, 8 windows busted, vomit, busted box. How are we gonna stop that when you have the tables and everything out here? When they took the tables away completely, it stopped.
You know, I think that's probably not a question that Phil can answer from a public works standpoint. But as we bring more people that aren't homeless downtown, that kind of makes the homeless situation go away, because they don't want to be around people. And I think part of what I do in my job, I'm thinking that would be kind of fun, is when the weather gets warmer, we might have like a Tuesday lunch bunch, go get your food and bring it to a public place where there have been a lot of homeless, like Majestic Park. And if we start infiltrating some of these places where people have been loitering, hopefully that will bring those things down.
And
So,
last night was evidence that the police department is also very willing to come down and engage with people downtown. So that's not something that I think the police would be unwilling to do, is meet about some of those issues.
yeah, we can do that, no.
All the lighting will change, so we'll increase lighting. We're getting away from the shoebox and go to the decorative that you see. We will probably change, we're looking seriously at changing the signage to match the lighting theme so that you have a kind of a uniform theme. That's being proposed in the budget. Hanging baskets. When you do all these things, now the city's putting up, and the citizens, I should say, I mean, when it's all said and done, that's close to $10 million. We don't want that run over by people that are not desirable.
Is there gonna be a substation across the street? Police substation with the restrooms?
Not not that I understand. Okay, I had two other items. The first is, let me talk a little bit about trees. Pat Walding is our urban forester, and we were looking at taking out the locusts. If you could talk a little bit about what the idea is as far as taking them out and what would be replanted, that would be great.
Okay.
Come to this thing if you want to.
Okay.
On camera. Get your good side.
So I think last year Shannon went around and talked to some of the store owners about the trees downtown. We've kind of been getting more and more complaints as the trees have gotten a lot bigger. And several years ago, we took out every other one, kind of opened it up a little bit, plant some flowers in the open tree well. But the trees have gotten bigger. They're kind of messy. Their habit is to spread, so we're pruning them every year, blocking the traffic lights down here. And also, people have awnings and the shade, the heavy shade, and the litter from the trees, make them the moldy awnings and stuff like that. So what Shannon did for me was kind of get a consensus of how people feel about switching out the trees to something more upright growing that won't block storefronts as much. What we're looking at is exactly the trees across the street over here, which we planted about 8 years ago, and they're about this tall right now. So they're fast-growing trees. The leaf litter, they fall first, and they blow away. They don't hang around. There's no seed pods and that type of thing. So right now we've got 14 trees on Main Street here left. And what we're looking to do is switch those out, plus add the additional trees that we took out before. So plant all the planters with trees except for there's the pizza place down here in Massengills where the awnings are too far out. So we'll leave those in flowers and whatnot. So we're talking about removing 14 trees on Main, planting back 22. And then another reason why to remove the trees, we've had a few here and there get hit by trucks, so that's starting to happen. But also to facilitate hanging baskets, we're looking into that. And some of the poles are pretty close to the planters. Right now, we've got trees, especially on the market side, that totally envelop the poles. So if you wanted hanging baskets, you'd have to do something about the trees anyway. So what we kind of like to, I guess at the next week's meeting, is kind of get, this is time for people to voice their opinions about the trees, and then have a decision then. And we can have this done, the trees could be in actually in a few weeks. We can do that pretty soon. And the baskets, we probably grow the flowers ourselves, and have those ready by May. When the banners for Blue Plum go up, so will the baskets. I've got some pictures here, you can pass around.
I have a question.
Yes.
So how does that affect the planters that are currently there? Is there, Phil, you can answer this question, or pick somebody else. Some of those planters have cracks in them. What's the plan as far as making what's our plan?
There's a lot of talk to redo Main Street.
Right.
So you have some options. One is, do you want to extend the pavers? The second is if we go in and replace the concrete, then what do you do with the planters? So the planters
Right.
have two options, whether it would be an artistic and have dolls and have more of an art form
Yeah.
planters, or go back in with this Versalock type wall, things that you see in the park, and bring that over, so you would actually change the type of planter.
So
If
do
that
we need to-
occurs
Yeah.
after he plants the trees,
Right,
then we'll just have to say, Pat, pick the trees out and reset
so
them.
they could be reset. It wouldn't be,
Well, the thing about doing this, and because when the trees were smaller, we talked about switching them out years ago, because there were talk about changing the street up, more parking, and that didn't happen.
right,
But I think the one thing to think about is the investment of the trees is pretty small. I mean, we're talking about $1,000. So whether the trees or not can be moved, depends on how far out you're talking. You know, the further out, it's not going to be cost effective labor-wise to do that. So the street may change, but we're not talking about a huge investment. So, you know, if the streets stays the same for another 5 years, you know,
it's okay.
it's probably worth it.
Okay.
As far as the planters go, yeah, they're in rough shape, but you know, we can deal with them, and you know, with what we got. The other side here, Market Street, we'll probably look at doing that this fall.
So Main Street would be the one that we'd have to wait a little longer on, as far as if we want to change the streetscape, or, right, the timeline would be a little bit farther
Yeah, I mean, like Phil said, it depends
Yeah.
on future funding,
in.
and so we don't know about that. So if we can get 3, 4 years out of the trees,
Then that's okay.
yeah, we're having like I said, I've planted 5 of those maples so
Yeah.
far because of trucks hitting them. They're just too big. And most urban trees last 7 years, and these have been here since
Okay,
15 years plus. So it's going to be a little change, but like I said, the first year the trees are going to be about 12 foot tall when we plant them, so sizable, and plus they're really fast growing. So the first year, it's going to be an impact, but hopefully if we do the hanging baskets, that'll kind of offset the drastic change. But like I said, there's really only 14 trees left. I think there's 8 on this block and 6 on that block.
right.
So,
Thanks, Pat.
okay.
We'd really love to have you, if you have any comments, and you can talk about the sequencing of changing out the trees. Do you want to do the whole street? Do you want to do half of them? Do you want to do Market, Main? Any of those type of comments are very much welcome. Any type of tree, obviously it has to be an urban tree. And those comments, we would appreciate it if they could be forwarded to Shannon, because the JCDA will be considering this issue in the next March 8th. And we really got to make some decisions here. The next issue, if there's no questions, the final issue that we have, as you know, we took out the dumpsters across the street. But what we did before we did that was we surveyed every property owner, and we making adjustments, and we can make adjustments on frequency. We can make adjustments any which way to accommodate the needs of the business owners. The one area that we have the biggest problem, the biggest problem now is that people are keeping their containers out on Market Street from Buffalo back up to Colonial Way. Number one, that's actually against the code. You can't do that. We've permitted it, not permitted, but we've allowed that to occur. The problem is that you're now going to introduce ever how many kids from a university across the street. We can't have containers out on the street, especially in the form that it is today. And we are racking our brains as to how to deal with it, but we need for the property owners. We understand that you may have an issue about how much space you have inside of your building. We can work through all that, but we need a game plan provided by the property owners to deal with that issue. Kathy Harsh is over solid waste, and she's been racking her brain and her staff has been trying to figure out how to do it. Kathy, could you just give us an idea of number of people we're talking about, and containers, et cetera?
Just on the Market Street from Colonial Way to Buffalo, we have actually 3 types of collection. There's the stationary containers that are there, and then we do a curbside collection with the containers Phil was talking about. And then also there's dumpster service. But from Colonial Way just down to Buffalo, we have about 12 collections that we do weekly. And in that, there's more than just one container. Some have 3 or 4 containers. Of those, about 8 leave them out on the curbside, which results in trash on the curb. We check them every morning. We check the downtown every day. We pick up litter downtown every day. But during the night, some of the things that you talked about is going on. So we're open for suggestions on what you'd like for us to help you with and how we can serve you with your garbage needs. We also have recycling available. We pick up about 15 stops downtown. On the Main Street side, we have 4 collections curbside at this point. Everybody else must be taking it to the dumpster or using the stationary containers. So, that said, is there any suggestions?
I have 2 questions or points. One is, I don't know who is over, but in the planting area down here right now, there's garbage all the time. I pick up garbage every day, beer bottles and stuff that's kind of in the bushes and shrubs. And I don't know if that's part of solid waste pickup or part of shrub pickup. Does that fall under the urban forestry?
Yeah. We'll make it a point to get to police these areas.
I know we're
more.
going to make some major changes in that area too. So
Yeah.
one of those things to think about is making sure we have a couple of receptacles. Because right now there's no trash cans on this corner. There's one around the corner over here, almost to Freiberg's, but there's no public trash can on this corner.
And I think those of us who work and live downtown, when we see trash,
Yeah,
we pick it up.
Yeah.
you know, even if it makes you mad that somebody else put it there, it doesn't hurt to just pick it up, and that way we somewhat alleviate the burden on our own tax dollars by having some landscaping person
And then my other question was about, is there no dumpster on this side that's accessible to these folks on Market Street? Is there no?
Other than the cardboard dumpster that's here, and then the glass dumpster also that's on Market. The only other one is on, State of Franklin.
And that's where we take our trash over to.
Tipton Street.
Tipton Street.
How will Northeast State be dealing with their trash?
I haven't talked with them.
They
I'm not
have
sure at this point.
off of Fondue Circle, they have access, and that's where their dumpsters are.
Is there a way to put maybe some extra dumpsters there, and then the Market Street folks can take their garbage to that dumpster?
I guess we'd have to work with them. A lot of,
The space down here is very limited when you talk about a dumpster. I mean, it's just huge, and the truck that has to be lifted is really big, and it's just hard to put dumpsters. What we were looking at one time was using enclosures for the smaller containers. And in order to do that, you're gonna have to do one of 2 things. You're gonna have to do it on the sidewalk, or you're gonna have to take parking space. So, you know, it's really hard to do with anything, and the dumpsters are just about out of the way. Maybe in the future, whenever some of the projects are finished down here, maybe we'll have some stuff like that.
plus dumpsters tend to draw illegal dumping.
They do.
Yeah.
So that can get you into a mess. We monitor those every day.
Well, also unless you pick them up on a fairly frequent basis, in the warm weather, you get an odor
I know.
issue also.
We do pick them up every day and we sanitize them, but you still have the odor because of what's going in.
Is Market the only stretch that has a problem with the red dumpsters, or, red cans, or is there any other part of downtown where they're being left out?
Train wreck.
There's only 4 collections on Main Street. Typically consistently out, and they tend to bring theirs back in.
What about on State of Frankfurt? Sometimes I've seen a lot of them out there by like Second Mobile.
They're gone.
They're gone.
Those are gone.
Those are gone.
Those are all
That
gone.
was, so somehow that got resolved, which shows that it's.
Can happen.
It can, they worked with us on a dumpster site, they did, that they're helping us monitor too, so.
How does somebody choose between, hey, I get a red collection unit versus I have to take it to a dumpster? I mean, is there a geographic area that's set up that says you have to do it and you don't, or?
No. I mean,
Oh, okay.
That just kind of evolved over the years, the dumpsters are available.
So if I paid a fee, I could get a red container. and put it
you
out.
can get one anyway, because you already paid
Every
for it.
business pays. Whether they use the dumpster.
That's part of the water. Yeah.
A lot of businesses just don't have anywhere to put that container.
I don't.
And that's the issue with us.
I do not want to carry it up and down.
You know, if, I was gonna say this at the end, but I'll say it now. If you guys have any other questions, issues, ideas, Kim has started a list here. If you guys want more downtown updates or have suggestions on anything, put your email here. I'm gonna leave my cards up there as well. You can email me, and I'm gonna start doing like a little downtown update thing, so write legibly.
Well, thank you very much. I hope that if you don't have any other questions, I think we covered the central issues. We're not here to cram things down people's throats. That's why we really like to see you give us some ideas as to how to deal with trash and how to deal with the trees. We're not interested in doing that. This is your place. And so we just want to bring you forward. We are going to disrupt the area for a while. So we appreciate the patience of the tenants and the property owners and the patrons in the area. Just realize we're doing this with internal crews in order to make it cost effective for us to do these type of projects. I think they do a great job, and I just really appreciate your patience. So, having said all that, there's no other questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Real quick, two other things. One, first Friday of every month, you guys hang out with us, have lunch, just the speakers. Two,